Y'all know exactly what we came here to do. We got to answer some questions. We got to figure this thing out together. If you've heard me talking about fantasy, you already know my fantasy team is in a little bit of disarray. But that's okay. Because we're going to bring in the boys to help fix it. We're going to bring in the team. We got to bring in Johnny Game Time Hicks. And of course, can't forget about my man, Big Travie. Boys.
What's up?
What's happening? What's happening? It is ugly over here in fantasy for me, but we're trying to overcome. We shall overcome.
Hey, you gotta believe.
It's once
Yes.
been said, you know what I'm saying? Listen, to the audience, if you guys want to send in your fantasy questions, send them in now, because that's why we have the Fantasy Whispers here. And listen, you guys know, as you see the Windy City Breeze here, let's talk here. Let's talk about the fantasy implications, especially for those David Montgomery owners starting off right now. What are you guys seeing right now? Is Damien Williams a good pickup for those people who were David Montgomery owners, or should they go looking elsewhere for starting running back help?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Damian Williams is a great replacement. We're talking about a 4 to 5 week timeline right now. We're looking at the week 10 bye. After that, as a return maybe for David Montgomery. And the thing about Damian Williams is we've seen this story before. You know, when he played for the Chiefs and had to come in replacement and fill in for an injury, he went on to be an RB10 or an RB1 down the stretch. So this is a guy who can catch passes. This is a guy who can run the offense and basically be a 1v1 replacement for David Montgomery. Is he going to be as explosive as David Montgomery? Maybe not. But he's definitely going to be a guy that replaces what Montgomery does snap share-wise, pass catching-wise. He does all the things that you want him to do in the offense that you wanted David Montgomery to do.
When we're coming in looking at what they've lost, I mean, is this a time where you guys would take into account that Bears offensive line? I mean, running wise, the Bears have actually been a pretty good team running the ball this year, but we know that offensive line is being held together by duct tape and a little bit Elmer's glue. Is that something that you're taking into account going into this week, knowing that, listen, Damian Williams might not be able to just punch people in the mouth the same way David Montgomery was?
Absolutely. This is one of the things that I want to let people know and kind of pump the brakes a little bit. We've had a lot of people asking us how much we should drop for him. I would pump the brakes a little bit. Now, I know there is a lot there that's exciting, right? And Damien, we have seen it before. However, this is a much different situation. Like you talked about, that offensive line, not the same offensive line he had before. You also have to look at the situation. Also realize, like, most people don't think about this right now, but we do. Tariq Cohen is supposed to come back off of PUP in about 2 weeks. So you have that. You've also got that the Bears just traded for Jakeem Grant this morning, sent a 6th rounder to Miami. And so what does that mean? Well, why it's so interesting is because the backup running back for the Bears right now, the rookie, he was actually the punt returner for the Bears. But because the running back situation is very thin for Chicago, that's why they traded for Grant, because now he's going to be the punt returner, and that's going to move Khalil to the backup role. And I could very so imagine and see them kind of being cautious and not giving a full entire workload because they're so thin right now at running back. Right. And then you talk about the schedule coming up. It's brutal. They've got 2 bottom 5 matchups against run defenses in Tampa Bay, and the other one is it's slipping my mind right now.
Pittsburgh. But they have three of the other matchups are against Vegas, Green Bay, and San Francisco. So,
Green Bay right now is actually top 13 against the run, a run defense. They're actually much better than they were last year. It's not like everyone could just run on them this year. So I'm just saying that you're talking about a lot of things that are kind of.
I understand that you want to come in and say pump the brakes. I get it. Like we can talk about pumping the brakes, but this is the waiver wire for running back, and things like this don't come along on the waiver wire all the time. And that is a replacement running back who we know is the backup to David Montgomery, who we know the offense. Look, right now, Nagy has no desire to open this offense up to anyone, Andy Dalton or flipping Justin Fields. He's not opening it up at all. If you look at the routes that they run, they don't get down the field.
It's laser now. It's laser now. Bill Lazor was the one that called the plays yesterday.
And how well did that work out for Justin Fields? I mean, it still didn't do anything for Justin Fields or any of this offense. Now, it did do well for the running backs, who Damian Williams ripped off over 6 yards per carry against the Lions. So to sit here and act like Damian Williams isn't going to be a decent pickup or an RB3 borderline pickup for you, I think this doesn't come along.
Right. So, that's my point, is like he's an RB3/flex play for you. Monty was an RB1. That's the difference. So it's not a 1-for-1 replacement, but it is a good, if you need a running back right now, it is a good running back to go out and try to get. But if there are going to be better running backs that are going to come along this fantasy season.
Are we looking at a situation here this week where Damian Williams becomes the number one waiver wire pickup? I mean, we're here in week 5. We're looking at the waiver wire. The waiver wire, I mean, at this point in the season, you're starting to get down to the nitty gritty of, hey, I'm getting guys that are, it's like you said before I got on here, it's time to start playing matchups. But does Damian Williams become that waiver wire number one guy heading into this week because of the fact that he's going to get the number one touches?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, he's the number one ad for me. I think the only other situation you would not take Williams as number one is maybe in a gamble on Trey Lance, because Trey Lance is now looking to be the starter, because in a game where he only played 50% of snaps, he still scored 20 fantasy points because he has the rushing upside, the Konami code, as we like to call it in fantasy football. Trey Lance is a guy that could easily win you your league. Now, and if you look at San Francisco's schedule the rest of the year for fantasy quarterbacks, absolutely impeccable. It's a really, really good schedule that we've been waiting to get our hands on for Trey Lance. The problem with Trey Lance is similar to Matt Nagy and his, I'm sorry, I have to say it, his stupidity right now. Shanahan is being a little bit dumb in the way they talk about Trey Lance too. I mean, he's saying that, we have beat writers saying, not that I trust San Francisco beat writers this year at all, but we have San Francisco beat writers basically saying that nobody's ready for him to be the QB. They didn't really want to. Shanahan's pissed off that he's got to make him the QB, all this stuff. And it's like, I just don't understand why these offenses think they're going to get away with Jimmy Garoppolo or Andy Dalton.
Here's the thing. I talk about the conspiracy theory. We talked about how Matt Nagy could be losing games. I think it's more so true for the Kyle Shanahan, because I still will say that Kyle Shanahan is not a good coach. He is a wonderful and magnificent offensive coordinator, a head coach. He is not good. And people say, oh, he went to the Super Bowl. He went to the Super Bowl right after he took over that team. He didn't have to do much. Since then, they've been top 5 picks, and it's looking like they're probably going to be a top 5 pick this year.
They've been one of the most unlucky teams injury wise as well, though, too. If you look at just statistically, they have been unlucky injury wise. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a question. That's the topic for another time for sure on Shanahan. But yeah, I think Trey Lance, to answer your long story even longer, I think that Trey Lance is a very interesting ad this week as well.
We got John in the chat already. He's saying bear down, first things first, bear down, brother. You keep it up. You do what you do. Should I let go of Robbie Anderson at this point? I mean, if we're asking that question, he's probably in the same kind of situations that I'm in. But what do you guys think of Robbie Anderson right now?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully there's guys like AJ Green, Hunter Renfrow, other guys on your waiver wire that you can go and snag, especially if it's PPR, because Robbie Anderson is just not getting the volume he got last year in Carolina, which is so strange to me because this offense really tailored it towards Robbie Anderson being their compiler. DJ Moore is their deep threat. And then they totally flipped the script once they got Sam Darnold. So maybe Teddy didn't allow them to do what they really wanted to do in the offense. And Sam Darnold is allowing that and feeding DJ Moore like the alpha. Robbie Anderson then becomes the secondary piece, or actually tertiary piece, because of what's going on with Christian McCaffrey. And Sam Darnold, man, robbing touchdowns in the end zone right now. He's a rushing master. I think what they have in DJ Moore is an alpha, and everything else just kind of gets affected by that. There's so much more on the waiver you could even invest in. I mean, I would go pick up a guy even like Jamison Crowder over Robbie Anderson, because Crowder is a guy who consistently soaks up targets in his offense. Jets schedule opening up just a little bit, and he's a guy that you can definitely see getting peppered with targets as the Jets come back in games.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Let's keep it there in Carolina. What are we hearing about Christian McCaffrey? I mean, I know right now he's talking about coming back. The coaching staff's like, whoa, 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 pump the brakes. What are you guys seeing as far as him coming back? And even is he somebody that you put back in as your RB1, RB2 in a situation where you're coming off a hamstring injury, bud?
It's hard to tell you not to play a guy like CMC because he's that talented. So that's the unfortunate part. But you're just gonna have to roll the dice, hope he doesn't. And realistically, you want him to sit just a little bit longer. You don't want him to push it and make it even worse, right? And so, but if he starts, it's hard not to throw him in your lineup because, to be real, it's CMC, even 50% of CMC is still what most RB2s can do on a good day, and so it's hard to say bench that player.
Yeah, I think CMC's probably out this week, but next week looking like a real possibility. Remember, they didn't put him on the IR. They could have. That would have been a 3-week absence minimum. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to try and push for him to come back next week. And if he's already talking about coming back this week, that's good signs that he could be ready for next week.
I like this question here, or not so much a question. Immortal Goofy talking about picked up Renfro and AJ Green last week. AJ Green, is AJ Green sustainable, legit points? I mean, we thought about AJ Green going over there at the beginning of this season, and I got him on my roster too, by the way, real good. But
there you go.
We thought he was going
signs
over
of life in Pat's roster.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? we thought he was going over there to be the number 3, and at this point, he looks like he's a viable fantasy option at your almost wide receiver 1 position every week. What are you guys thinking on what the production we're seeing from AJ Green right now?
Yeah, so check this out, Pat. Over 80% snap share in all 4 games. Well, right around 80% snap share in all 4 games. 6 targets has been his minimum. He's never not had 6 targets in a game this year. The difference between weeks 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 is he was only catching about 50% of his balls in weeks 1 and 2. Now he's up to the 80% catch percentage now. Compiling the yardage in the offense. As this offense continues to heat up, he continues to show dominance. He scored last week, got 100+ yards the week before in week 3 against Jacksonville. This is a guy in AJ Green that we thought a new change of scene could really refreshen him, and we saw the reports out of training camp that it did. Then weeks 1 and 2 kind of scared us off a little bit. But he's gotten that rapport that we saw in training camp. It's now matriculating into weeks 3 and 4 and now giving us some life here. I think he's the ultimate add at wide receiver this week. If he's not already gone off your waiver, I think he would be the number 1 priority at wide receiver if I were you or anybody in those leagues out there.
Yeah, he's playing the Christian Kirk role, which really stretches the field. So you're getting that down the field, which is the high upside plays. He'll get about 6 a game. That's the only unfortunate part is like he's not going to be a target monster like he was for Cincinnati. But the thing is he's dominant and good enough even at this stage of his career to take advantage of a corner CB2s, cornerback.
And not all targets are created equal. Don't always just go chase the targets here with AJ Green. The 6 targets he's getting to this year, they're a part of that Arizona offense, and we just saw them make the Rams look silly. And that's a talented secondary over there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Brett asks, he says he got offered Diggs for Debo. Should he take it? Now, you guys
that's another one, dude. We had one of these last night, dude. We had a DK for Debo, and we're like, smash it. Smash that accept, dude. This is ridiculous.
So
man.
There's a couple things here. One, Debo is somebody that I think could come back to bite me, as I keep saying, sell high, but because he's getting 30% of the target market share every week. I mean, they dominate passing him the ball. The problem with San Francisco is they don't want to pass the ball. They want to run the ball. That's what this offense wants to do, and they will revert back to running. And Ayuk is a guy who's talented. It should eventually work out where he's taking more of that. It's just been a weird start to the season. Again, Kittle, the injury there. But I think the bigger thing here is if Trey Lance does continue to start, I think the ADOT for Debo Samuel comes way down. They start using him more as the yak monster, as the guy they use on the short bubble screens, the little outs. And that is not something that's really sustainable over the year. So if you can get wide receiver, think about what we're asking here. Stephon Diggs for Debo Samuel. I mean, yes, absolutely go get some wide receiver 1 value for Debo Samuel right now, because it's not going to stay this hot all year long.
I feel like I feel like with Debo, it's the name. Like a lot of times when people are
Mhm.
playing fantasy, they hear the name and they're like, "Oh, I hear his name all the time. He's killing it." I'm like, "But are we watching what he's actually
Right.
producing on the field?" Right now, he's killing it. But it's like you said, with a different quarterback in there, it really changes the scenario, which kind of brings us into this question. By the way, P Kid killing it in our league. By the way, shout out to Kid. He
Yeah,
says, "Would you
PK.
drop Mooney considering how botched the Bears situation is?" Like you said, we know. I mean, I've been trying to explain to Kid that Bill Lazor is better than Matt Nagy, but that's not
Yes.
a good thing. It's just that he's better than Matt Nagy.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he's drawing up huge
It's like the
plays.
reverse Brad Pitt effect, like when you
Yeah.
go out with your homies and you're the best looking one, even if you're not that good looking, if you're the best looking one, you look better than the rest, right? So
Yeah.
I think for me, Mooney is probably the one hold in the Bears situation right now. We saw flashes of a little bit of a breakout last week with Fields. If Fields can get it going, and I know we're trying to really reach for this, and yes, the situation is botched. So I understand if you've got a guy like AJ Green, drop Mooney for AJ Green for sure. Go out and do that, But I think that there are situations where I'd be keeping Mooney as a, stash right now. Let's say Fields can actually win the job, keep it the rest of the year. It's clear that Fields likes going deep to Mooney. It's clear that this offense doesn't like to scheme Robinson as deep as we thought. Yeah. And Mooney is that deep threat, which would mean some big fruitful fantasy points for Darnell Mooney going forward.
Here we go. Shout out to Drew Chort. I'm not even gonna try it. All right, but Chubb and Mike Williams for Kamara and Kittle PPR. Is that a good trade?
Are you getting Chubb and Mike Williams?
Yeah, I believe he's possibly sending Chubb and Mike. Let us know, Drew.
I would keep Chubb and Mike Williams.
Yeah, I would keep Chubb and Mike Williams.
Because what's funny about Kamara right now in this new look Saints offense, he's essentially turned into Chubb. He does not get targets anymore. And he's not the best pure runner of this group of guys we're talking about right now. Chubb is. So I would keep on to that. Plus Mike Williams and his offense getting a lot more market share, even in a bad game against the Raiders where he kind of took a back seat. He's getting more market share than Kittle is right now in his offense. So I would definitely keep on to Chubb and Mike Williams.
Here's a good question. Staying with Kittle, a lot of questions about Lance today. Is Kittle going to get more love with Lance being the starter?
So here's something that's interesting. Of all the quarterbacks yesterday, Pro Football Focus, they had Trey Lance with 0, like what they call like a danger throw. So it's like with anybody in any kind of distance where it would be, you would need to it would be a somewhat difficult throw to make, right? He actually had 0 of those. So it's like he is looking for wide open guys, which is part of the reason why Debo went off so much, because that's the other part is like most people just look at the box score and what players score instead of actually knowing what actually happened in the game. And there was a mega play that Debo made down the sideline where it was like the distance from me to you, Pat, there in Chicago by the closest defender around Debo. So like he could just literally walk into the end zone for 50 yards. So again, I do think that there are going to be some struggles because this offense does want to run the ball a lot, especially with Lance. He's going to use his legs in order to pick up a lot of yardage because he's not necessarily super confident yet. And neither is the coaching staff, by the way, because you could tell by the plays they're calling, they're not super confident in his arm quite yet to get him to that level. So I do have concerns for all the 49ers pass catchers.
And also, sorry, Pat, I think it was 50% of the game. Like they didn't scheme in going thinking that they were going to have Lance in this game. They schemed thinking they were going to have Jimmy G. So they have a whole week and they name him the starter, which I see Brett in the chat here saying he's heard Jimmy G was good to go. I do think that there's still a chance Jimmy G makes it back for this game. That's what we've heard out of San Fran the last couple of days. But I don't think he's good to go exactly. But I would just say a full week to prepare for Lance means they could open up a little bit more in this offense for them.
Absolutely. Here's a good question. First off, your team sounds like it's doing pretty good right now. Need to start PPR 3 wide receivers already have Adams and Goodwin. Should I go Shelnut or Mooney or Kirk?
I go Chenault.
I'm going Chenault. Not only is he in line for more targets, which we saw when DJ Shark went down against Cincinnati, but playing a Tennessee secondary that is just absolutely god awful this year, just getting torched in the secondary. I mean, the Jets went in there and made work of the Tennessee
Corey Davis.
secondary. Yeah, Zach Wilson, who didn't look like he was ready to be in the NFL after 3 weeks, went out and balled out against that Tennessee secondary. So, look, I love Mooney. I think he's a stash. Christian Kirk has shown flashes, was PFF's highest graded wide receiver through 3 weeks. But, again, sharing time with Rondale Moore and not playing the full slate of snaps, I'd go with Shenault in this match.
Yeah.
Here's another good one. I love the Muzza dropping in the questions here. I'm loving this.
Yeah.
These are great. These are great.
And Jalen Waddle for Chris Godwin and Mike Davis.
I would not do this.
No, I would not do this at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you should find the guy who offered you the trade and slap him. Like I'm really liking. I mean,
I love Godwin, but it's not enough to tilt the scale here because Godwin getting some shaky market share in the targets with AB back, and we've seen that. But the bigger thing here is Gibson. Like you don't have somebody like Gibson that's just floating around. Mike Davis right now, they activated Wayne Gallman and gave him 6 touches in that game. Yeah. Like they are like trying to move off of Mike Davis. It seems like in either whether it's Patterson or Wayne Gallman, they're trying to get off of Mike Davis. So don't fall for your league mate who's also trying to get off of Mike Davis.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I picked up Mike Davis one week because I was like, well, he's getting 20 touches a game. He's got to be in the next one. It was like 3. I was like, wow, who did you piss off? Because you're in the game.
Yeah.
Need flex advice here: Jaseki, Edmonds, or Hubbard.
Oh, give me Chase Edmonds, man.
Yeah.
Give me Chase Edmonds right now, who is just dominating. Chase Edmonds has 17% of his team's market share. We talk about all these wide receivers, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, that we want locked in because they're part of that Cardinals offense. You know who is locked into getting work? Chase Edmonds in the receiving game. So even if he's not doing what you want him to do at the goal line because James Conner exists and he's ceding some work to James Conner, as a pass catcher, he's one of the elite backs there is right now. And that's huge, huge value on this Cardinals offense. And I know I'm stealing the mic here from Johnny, who's a big Cardinals fan, so I'll let him add a little 2 cents in here. Sorry about that, John.
Well, back-to-back games now, they want to get James Conner or they want to get Chase Edmonds a touchdown. They were trying to do it in this last game near the end. I do think that one of these games he is going to get his touchdown. So, I would go with Edmonds. Great matchup, too.
Here we go. Shout out to my boy Kenny Keiss tuning in. He's in the league with us as well. I trade Matt Stafford and Keenan Drake for Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I would do this. I'm not even a CEH fan, and
I know this is just you want the guy getting the targets, getting the pass catching work, being the back on the Chiefs. We want this when it is that guy. CH took a little while to get going, but it looks like he's finally fitting into a groove. And Stafford is consistent, but in quarterback, we know we can replace quarterback a lot easier on the waiver wire. It would depend on who you had. In what kind of quarterback league you're in. Hopefully you're in a single quarterback league because that would make this trade a bit easier.
A single QB league.
Then I would definitely go and get this deal done because CEH is going to be a rare breed at running back that you just can't find on the waiver right now.
Yep.
I think see this is the insider right here. I think he's making the trade sending away CEH because I just traded him CEH for OBJ.
Oh, yeah. Do not do this deal.
Yeah, then don't do this deal. No, don't do the deal. I would rather have CEH.
Yeah, keep CEH on your roster here. I wanted to go because that guy, Pat, had Brett, I think is what he said. Okay, how about this long term? If Jimmy G is the guy, are you taking Diggs or Debo? We're still taking Diggs if Jimmy G is the guy. We know that Jimmy G has an affinity towards Debo. But guys, like we don't get guys like Stephon Diggs, who 3 out of 4 games has 10 or more targets this year. I know it hasn't really equated to a lot because he hasn't scored the touchdowns, but he's coming off 114 yards last week. It seems like he's getting right. The schedule's starting to open up. Kansas City, Tennessee, Miami, Jacksonville, the Jets. I mean, those are some dominating games for the Bills, and we know Diggs is going to get involved in that love. So I would be hanging on to Diggs or making sure I'm taking Diggs in this deal.
And actually, Jimmy G makes me more concerned about Debo because right now they're not scheming in Ayuk a whole lot, and that would change if Jimmy G is the quarterback, because he can make those throws. He's not afraid to throw into tight coverage. So that's what actually makes me more concerned, is that Jimmy G is in fact the long-term quarterback this year, or for most of this year, and Ayuk will be more involved.
I love P Kid in here trying to make trades happen.
He's really,
chat, right?
he's trying to get me
he's
to
wheeling and dealing right now, dude.
He's really trying to get me to take this Justin Fields and Mooney for AJ Green deal, and I'm just like, dog, be gone with this. There's a reason I have ignored you. And Anthony, shout out to you for tuning in, bro. He says Pitts has been a disappointment. I was able to pick up Jaseki PPR. Should I start him going forward or have more patience with Pitts? And
well,
Pitts
this question is for Johnny, 100%.
Yes,
because Johnny's a Jaseki lover, but he's been preaching like patience on Pitts. So Johnny,
yes,
you're on the spot, man. What do we got here?
I'm not dropping Pitts right now. I am not dropping Pitts. And Jaseki, I'm a fan of Jaseki, like Big Travis said. It's just there's a lot going on with Miami right now that isn't going to remain consistent throughout the entire year. And the thing with Pitts is that second option, and he is just, I mean, all the metrics are showing that Pitts is being heavily involved, and that he is just like, he's building, like, I swear he's gonna erupt for like a 3 touchdown day. It's just like, because I've been calling for a touchdown the last 2 weeks, and Big Trav was making fun of me because I doubled down last week. I don't think he'll allow me to triple down this week on a touchdown, but I do. Kyle Pitts is statistically right where he needs to be as far as targets, usage, yards per route ran, like all of that stuff. I would hang tight to Pitts.
Is it worth it in that situation? Maybe not to drop him, but is it worth it in that situation to keep him in your lineup for the upside that he might have the 3 touchdown day, but knowing right now that he's struggling to even bring the ball in consistently?
This week against the Jets, like we talked about before, he plays the Jets. So yes, get him in your lineup this week. I'm playing him. I have Kelsey, and I'm playing Kelsey and Pitts this week in a league. So he should go off against the Jets.
I like to equate fantasy football to Texas Hold'em poker a lot, and right now what we're seeing out of Kyle Pitts is a lot of you taking a bath on the flop, somebody out flopping a set on you. They're getting a lot of cards on you, but you're continuously getting good cards. Eventually your cards will, if you can survive the run, eventually your cards will win out. And that's what's happening with Pitts. High usage, high snap percentage, running routes on all the dropbacks. I mean, it's essentially playing wide receiver, and you get to start him at your tight end. 9 targets. That was his season high last week. So yes, as Johnny says, things are going to even out for Pitts. I understand the allure of Jaseki. I would try to get out of Jaseki because I just don't trust Miami to keep him involved. He's not a guy that inline blocks either, so they don't usually keep him on the field as much. And so that's something that I would be worried about with Jaseki versus Pitts on.
2 things real quick. Kyle Pitts, 26 targets on the season. That ranks 6th. And he's got 6 red zone targets, which is 2nd in the league, has 0 touchdowns. So he is due. I'm telling you, he's due.
Yeah.
Tanner, shout out to Tanner, man. Tanner in the chat. Tanner always so
lit.
Fellas, I have 3 QBs: Rodgers, Mac Jones, and Trey Lance. Should I keep them all?
Mac Jones.
Pat didn't get my. I said who, and Pat was
trying
like,
to come in with the Mike Jones.
I thought you were gonna. Yeah, Mike Jones.
Speaking of Mac Jones, I'd be dropping Mac Jones. Of these 3, and I would keep you. This is a perfect combo. Keep Rodgers for the Trey Lance stuff to figure itself out, but Trey Lance is going to be your guy. You're probably going to be starting week in and week out if he becomes the guy. P Kid, man, loves him some Mac Jones.
He really does,
Jones,
bro. When I tell you, he's got so
perfect.
much argument.
Mac Jones is perfect for the Patriots. I think he runs their offense well. But we're talking fantasy football, P Kid, and you can't put up numbers with Mac Jones out there looking like the dad bod that he is. He's just not going to get it done.
The Patriots don't trust him enough. I mean, you saw it. Like, they didn't go for it on that 4th and 3. They should have. They didn't. After Mac Jones had 19 or 20 straight completions, they don't trust in Mac Jones to push the ball down the field. That's why they had to do a trick play in order to get the ball down the field with my boy Jacoby throwing that dime piece. Thought he was going to score a tutty on that. I got real excited. But, yeah, I'm with Big Travie.
Shout out to Ken again. This is an interesting situation too, because he's been a very we thought he was going to be starting. He was a sleeper, and now he's sitting. What about Eli Mitchell? Is he droppable or keep him around? I've heard that he might not even be playing this week.
Yeah, so the idea last week he had the non-contact jersey on. They made him a game time decision, or basically a Saturday decision. They announced him out on Sunday. I have a lot of shares of Eli Mitchell. I've been watching this closely because when Eli Mitchell played, he got RB1 usage, and in that Detroit game looked really well. You look at who they're playing this week, PFF grades Arizona as the number 31 ranked defense against the run. Not good against the run. They haven't given up the points as much because guys haven't gotten into the end zone against them. So they've kind of buttoned up in the red zone. But we saw Darrell Henderson come right back in and rip off some real gushy runs against this team last week. I'd be really excited to start Eli Mitchell should he get the nod, but it would depend on your roster. They're asking if you could drop him. It depends on who you're out there going for, but if you need the RB help, I would not get rid of Mitchell just yet. Give it one more week.
Eli Mitchell or Damien Williams?
I think I'm going Eli Mitchell because I think the upside's a little bit better. I could understand wanting to go for Damien. Because he's healthy-ish. Yeah. He has the thigh bruise, but he's healthy-ish and could start. But I tell you what, man, Eli Mitchell, man, I'm not going to be surprised if Eli Mitchell scores top 5 running back points this week against Arizona, because that's how good, and that offense just produces chunk yardage. You know what I'm saying?
To the Breeze family, that is a Packers fan dropping.
Hey, this is a Packers fan whose bromance for the year was David Montgomery, who loves Justin Fields.
This is fact.
This is all I tell you what, man, I haven't fanboyed over Chicago's offense in a long time, and this may have been the worst year to do it. So
Hey, listen, I've never fanboyed over Chicago's offense, so I'm glad we're on together. Boss says, I got Monty Hines and Melvin Gordon on my bench. JC is my other starter. Who should I roll with, or should I look to waivers? I can name a few waivers if you want.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think if this is PPR, we get that.
Yeah, if it's PPR, he's completely fine with those 3. Yeah, but again, I would go after Damien. If you have Monty and you can, I would go after Damien.
Yeah, I think Damien's there. I think other than that, the guys that are going to be available, like maybe Kenneth Gainwell is an interesting ad for you in PPR because of the way they're using him in the passing game. And now we've got beat writers coming out saying today, this is ushering more to a timeshare than we thought until Miles Sanders can provide some pop. And I think the phrase was wiggle free or bust a move or something like that. But you know what I mean? Basically, they're not excited about what Sanders has shown so far, and they want to use Gainwell more. And to tell you what, I think the Eagles got a bit of a steal on Gainwell. He's pretty good right now, what we're seeing out of him.
So what you're telling me, Big Travie, is that Miles Sanders needs to come out with a dance video similar to Jalen Hurts did before that preseason game. In order to get fluxed into the ultimate starter.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't. Philly is a little bit. They want him to do something. He's not busting many moves for your fantasy team right now. Miles Sanders is hard to even rank as an RB2 at this point.
Oh my goodness!
Because of the way it's going. So
Philly is a conundrum of wow, those guys actually look like a football team. Was that the Jets we just saw out there?
Right.
Did they change colors?
Honestly, that's a perfect comp because it's like one quarter you could say, oh my God, they're going toe for toe with Kansas City. The next quarter they're getting just destroyed by Dallas. So I don't really know what you're going to get. I know you're going to start Jalen Hurts, like he rolls out of bed as a QB1, but that's about it on that offense.
We'll finish it off with this one here. Shout out DG. He says, should I start Marquis Brown or Jamison Crowder this weekend for my flex?
Marquis Hollywood Brown, dude. Don't call us. Call God, baby.
Yeah, call God, baby. Call God. Dude, you're keeping that guy in your lineup. He's the guy's on fire.
So if Marquis Brown would have caught both the touchdown passes, so right now, if he would have caught one of the ones that he dropped against Detroit 2 weeks ago, a little bit of a memory here. If he would have dropped one, or if he would have caught one of those passes, only dropped one, he would be the wide receiver 4 in scoring. If he would have caught them both, he'd be the wide receiver 1 right now. And with that all being said, he dropped all of them, and he's got his touchdown last week, and now he's the wide receiver 6. So we've got a guy in Marquis Brown that is just absolutely dealing right now. And I know people are concerned. Rashad Bateman could be coming back. Miles Boykin could be coming back. We've got these guys coming back in the offense. I honestly think that opens up more opportunities.
Yeah.
And I think it's just an up arrow for Lamar Jackson in the offense in general. And I really do what I'm seeing out of Marquis Brown. He's
and they play the Colts this week.
Remember Cooper Kupp and Tyler Lockett's games against these boys?
Yeah.
It's
I mean Parker. I mean Tony Parker. Tony Parker had
Pat must have been playing against those guys.
Because, you know what? It's one of those things that Cooper Kupp is one of those receivers that I always look at and I'm just like, why are you good?
Yeah.
And he just consistently ups what he's doing. Like he's one of the guys I'm just like, nah, like I'm not worried about Cooper Kupp. And then every time he plays the Bears, like I probably should be a little more worried about Cooper Kupp. So every time I hear Cooper Kupp, I'm just like, it's tough out here. You hate to see it.
Yeah, well,
man,
Cooper Kupp,
but boys, we appreciate y'all for tuning in and rocking with us, man. As you guys can see, follow the boys on Twitter, Johnny_GameTime and Big Travie TFW. Let me ask you this, boys. If there was a place where people could go to find even more fantasy information, where would that place be?
Make sure you head on over to YouTube, Pat. We appreciate you setting us up. You go to YouTube, you search the Fantasy Whispers, and you hit that subscribe button. We do daily content, not just this, because Pat's so gracious to let us on here and help. And we, we like to help Pat out. I know he's struggling over there, but we like to help him out. We're trying. We're trying.
It's ugly.
But
the injury situation is not getting better.
Yeah. We did tell you this was coming. This is a game of attrition. It was coming. But yeah, the winter has come. It's here. It's time to go. Hit on over to the YouTube, search the Fantasy Whispers, give us a sub. We would appreciate it, and we'll keep giving you this daily content, man.
Hey, boys, appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with us. Listen, we're going to be doing a bull stream in a little bit, so if you guys want to stay on and tune in for that, make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the page, all that good stuff. We appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with us. As always, it's your boy, Pat the Designer, to my guest, Big Travie, and Johnny Game Time Hicks. Hey, yo, Chicago. I guess the world and the fantasy world. Y'all stay safe out there, man. Peace.
Peace.